I think there's a delay. Right now. Hey, how are you? We are hopping on. Wait, no, never mind. I can just see it. Sorry. I'm like, wait, it's going. I don't want it to go. I haven't hit go live.
Okay, I was like, I'm not
still
seeing
hear
it.
me?
I'm not seeing it.
I saw our picture and I was like, crap, we have to go. And then I was like, oh wait, there's a blue button that says go live. And I haven't hit that yet.
So are you starting it or am I starting it? You want to start it?
I'm starting it. I'm just typing in a title. Yep.
But no, you want to start? You
Okay.
talking? You want to start?
Oh,
Or you want me to start?
you're going first, so you start.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, as soon as I see that it's live,
Okay.
I'll be like, hey, we're going to talk about insulin, all things insulin.
Okay. Alrighty. I'm gonna hit live. So right, I think there's a slight delay from being live now and going to insulin. What?
Okay. I'm just gonna watch for it and
Okay. I'm hitting it right now.
okay. All right. All right. Who is ready to talk about insulin? All right. We are live. Okay. Let's talk all things insulin. What is it? What creates insulin sensitivity? All the things, right? So let's break it down. Insulin. Insulin is a hormone that your pancreas releases. Okay. So when I eat, what happens is insulin comes in, it's released by the pancreas and it comes in. Oh my gosh, I'm flustered, guys. I'm excited to be here. Oh my gosh. Okay, here we go. So it comes in and it grabs the glucose. When we eat, our glucose level comes up. So glucose, our blood sugar, those types of things. It comes in and it transports that to our cells for energy. Okay. This is really important because that energy can be used right away. Guys, I'm excited here. Okay, so oh, my brain just went. Okay, deep breath. Here I come.
You're all good.
I know. I'm just like so excited. Like insulin is such an amazing topic, and I'm just so excited to be
This is our favorite topic. Can you tell? It's our favorite topic. We get so excited about this.
Blow your mind. And stick around because we're gonna talk about like what changes at the end. Okay, so I eat. My blood sugar comes up. Insulin is released by my pancreas. It grabs that and it takes it in and it is used for energy. What is left in the bloodstream? That goes straight to our muscles, our fat cells, and our liver to be stored for later energy. Okay. So in our muscles, it's called glycogen. Have you ever heard of that? When you use those muscle stores, you got to replenish that glycogen. Well, what is happening because of the food we're eating, the processed foods that our body doesn't know what to do with? It doesn't understand, like, what is this sugar coming in my body? Our excess carbs that we're eating as a Western culture, environmental factors, stress, our inactivity. We're a lot more sedentary these days. We don't move a lot. And so that's a huge contributing factor. And it starts to make our cells resistant to insulin. Okay. Why is this important? So now when I eat, my pancreas still pumps out insulin. But now those cells are like, we don't care. So they're not being utilized as quick energy. They're not being burned up and they're being stored more often. Okay. So insulin is now the pancreas is like, hey, there's still blood sugar in our bloodstream, like pump more insulin. And that insulin is being pumped and pumped and pumped. And so in our labs on paper, it looks like we're fine. But what's happening is insulin is being overly pumped. And now that blood sugar is just floating around like crazy. And it's excess. So guess where it goes? Straight to our gut, straight to our belly, stored as fat, right? So this is a huge problem. And guys, 85% of people suffer with insulin resistance. That's why this is such an exciting thing to talk about, because most of us who have been on yo-yo diets for our whole life, who have struggled to lose weight, who are now starting to feel the problems come on of starting to feel sick or having digestive issues or heart issues. These are all contributed. Okay. So 9 out of 10 people suffer from this. That's a huge, huge number. 200 million people are obese in our country. In 5 years, that's going to be half our country is obese. And it comes down to insulin resistance because we cannot process our food well. We cannot get that glucose out. And the cool thing is, or not the cool thing, but Kara was talking about this earlier, a stat that said, if we could look at insulin, we could detect diabetes 20 years earlier. Okay. So my grandfather, he died of diabetes, but he was never diagnosed because he had all the signs. He had neuropathy. He had, he was always thirsty. He was always snacking, but they couldn't treat him because his glucose was fine. But what was he? He was insulin resistant, right? So Kara's going to talk about a few things that this leads into, because we all know that this leads to diabetes, right? If it goes unchecked, that is like extreme cases, because over time, there's just like the insulin gives up. They can't do anything. And so it leads to type 2 diabetes. So we are all in that precursor, like where we are now, we can prevent this and we can get a hold of our health. So Kara, take away, talk about some things that what this does long-term.
Awesome. Okay, so first I have to say, I for sure have insulin resistance. I have all of my life. If you don't know, if you do, I posted a quiz from Dr. Bickman's book. That's who I will be referring to, is the scientist on insulin resistance. It's called Why We Get Sick by Dr. Benjamin Bickman. And he has a short quiz in there. It's like 8 questions. Posted it this week on Monday. If you have some resistance, if you yes, you probably do. If you answer yes to 2 or more, you definitely do. That's pretty crazy. That's why many people are struggling with this, and it is the root to all of our issues. It and inflammation. It's kind of like a chicken or the egg type thing, which came first. They feed on each other. Inflammation causes insulin resistance. Insulin resistance causes inflammation. So just controlling both is great. The better that you can do, the faster you'll see results. So I wanted to share some of the things from his book. I'm going to try not to geek out on you too much because it's really interesting to me because I've struggled with it so much all of my life. Okay, so first off, he says most people with insulin resistance will ultimately die from heart disease or other cardiovascular complications. Others will develop Alzheimer's disease, breast or prostate cancers, or any number of other lethal diseases. I know that's kind of bleak, but that's what he's saying, is it's the root of everything. Those things are just the effects down the road. Okay, so he first talks about cardiovascular. I'm just going to go through a few different areas of the body and show you what insulin resistance does in them. Okay, so insulin resistance and cardiovascular issues are almost inseparable. Those with cardiovascular disease not identified with diabetes yet are simply undiagnosed. Where you find one, you find the other. If you have elevated blood pressure, thickening of the heart muscle, blood vessel plaques, or other conditions of the heart, then you have insulin resistance too. Just period. Treat the insulin resistance is his point, which is actually really helpful because it's a lot easier than the other stuff they do for your heart. Okay, other things like, yes, and a lot cheaper and not side effects and is not made in a lab. Okay, so the brain is super sensitive to insulin. So prolonged insulin resistance physically alters the brain. So insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes are basically used interchangeably. So just think of it either way, whichever makes sense to you. But basically increasing the risk of developing severe brain-related diseases like Alzheimer's, dementia, and Parkinson's. Alzheimer's is even now being called type 3 diabetes because it is so linked to insulin resistance. Parkinson's is associated with low dopamine levels, and insulin resistance decreases your dopamine in your brain, which also affects your mood, right? So you're happy, your dopamine. Then let's see. Oh, this one was interesting. 40% of people treated with antipsychotics may develop type 2 diabetes within 5 years. But when they go off of those, insulin resistance goes away in 2 weeks. That's crazy. Like they go off the medication and it goes away in 2 weeks. Migraines. How many of you have migraines? Okay, I have friends that have had horrible migraines. Ironically, I don't struggle with migraines, but studies have found that insulin levels in men and women are higher in people who experience migraines compared to people who don't. And women who have insulin resistance are twice as likely to have regular migraines. Neuropathy that Joey mentioned with her grandpa. As nerves become insulin resistant, the ability for them to maintain their normal function is compromised. And that's how you get neuropathy. My husband had the trigeminal neuralgia going on in his face, also nerves dysfunction, like not functioning correctly. We've been totally controlling his glucose, and he's not had a flare up in 3 months. That's pretty crazy. Okay, let's talk about reproductive. And I know this is a really sensitive subject, especially with women and infertility and all that kind of stuff. So remember, I'm just quoting Dr. Bickman, and I hope that it's informative and helpful. Okay, so he says insulin resistant men and women are more likely to be infertile than their insulin sensitive counterparts. Insulin resistant children are more likely to experience alterations in puberty, and they start puberty earlier. Pregnancy is a natural insulin resistant state because insulin resistance makes every cell bigger. That's what insulin does. It's an anabolic hormone. So it makes your cells bigger. When you're growing a baby, you want to grow it bigger, like to a degree. So it's a really fine line. Your body puts you, the woman, into insulin resistant state so that it can grow that baby. But you don't want to cross the line and jeopardize your own health. Okay, so what else does he say? Women who develop gestational diabetes, I think my first kid she was a huge baby, but it wasn't diagnosed. My second and third, I for sure had gestational diabetes. My fourth, I did not. But a woman who develops gestational diabetes is 7 times more likely to develop type 2 diabetes. Women who develop gestational diabetes or have dramatic insulin resistance early in their pregnancies are significantly more likely to have preeclampsia in the second half of their pregnancy. Gestational diabetes babies are 4% more likely to be obese and have metabolic complications in their teenage years and beyond. And this is why I'm telling you this, because it's not just about me, it's about my kids too. And this is why our country, how many people are obese, Joey?
200 million.
200 million, because we're passing it on through our genetics. And this is why I get so fired up about it, because insulin is something we can control. We just don't know. People just don't know. So this is why we're sharing. Okay, so it also affects low birth weight babies. So if you have a premature baby, low birth weight baby, they are actually more likely than the heavy babies to become obese and have insulin resistance. And it can start as early as age 4. That's pretty crazy. Okay, so just watch what we're feeding them. Just cut out the junk that we're feeding them. Get rid of the juice and the fruit snacks, just some cheese, feed them real food. Okay, so higher insulin resistant women are more likely to have lower milk supplies, but if she can breastfeed, that is the body's natural way to reverse the insulin resistant state of pregnancy. So it's a good thing. At its very core, PCOS is a disease of too much insulin. Direct quote from Dr. Bickman. PCOS is a disease of too much insulin. Just control your insulin and it will go in remission. If a woman can get her insulin under control, often the fertility issues that they struggle with, often the fertility hormones will follow. Sorry, I messed that up. And for men, more insulin leads to lower testosterone. So for a lot of couples that can't get pregnant, it's actually both. It could be both partners because they both have insulin issues. Okay, I'm just gonna skip through some of the others. I don't wanna geek out on you. Aging, insulin resistance is increasing the rate of aging on your cells unless it appears in your appearance. So when you control your insulin, you look younger. And the people that live to be 102 or whatever, they're insulin sensitive. They all have that in common. Pretty cool. Skin. People with insulin resistant are more likely to develop skin tags. Psoriasis, they're almost People with psoriasis are almost 3 times more likely to be insulin resistant. And people with acne have higher fasting levels of insulin in their blood. Okay, it even affects your hearing. 76% of patients with the Meniere's, is that how you say it? Condition, Meniere's, are also insulin resistant. 92% of people with tinnitus are insulin resistant. And the most commonly overlooked cause of vertigo is glucose metabolism. Control your insulin. Okay, so muscles, Joey kind of talked about that a little bit, I think, but insulin resistant people have a harder time promoting muscle growth and maintaining it. Bones, osteoarthritis is considered a metabolic disease now. Gout in your fingers, that's just insulin making your body store uric acid everywhere. 63% of people who have gastrointestinal issues have insulin resistance. It's also, insulin resistance is a leading cause of kidney failure. Metabolic syndrome or insulin resistance is highly related to reflux and GERD, and it gets worse as your insulin resistance gets worse. Insulin resistance slows the movement of your food through your intestines by 40%. So if you can't poop, you're eating too much sugar, right? It's related. We all know that. We go on a trip, the holidays come, and we get stuff, right? It's because it slows your intestines down. It also lowers your immune system for 6 hours every time you eat sugar, just so you know. Being insulin resistant is the strongest known predictor of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. That disease 30 years ago wasn't even existent, like in our world, unless you were an alcoholic. But now we're getting it from carbs, way too many unhealthy carbs. He even said that if a lean person, so like a skinny, lean looking person, is diagnosed with the non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, it's almost a certain sign that they have insulin resistance and will develop type 2 diabetes. And he said the major culprit is juice. Cut the juice. Quit drinking juice. Juice is horrible. Don't drink juice. Eat the fruit. Okay, so finally, just to wrap it up, let's see. He says insulin resistance makes everything bigger, and so with your weight, same thing. It will go in and turn off things like leptin, and leptin is what regulates your appetite and your metabolic process. So we are doing the Healthy Habits Challenge right now. A lot of us are focused on losing weight, but we wanted to talk about insulin resistance because it's so much more than losing weight. It's about how you're going to feel now and what your health is going to look like in 20 years. Okay, sorry, Joey, take it over.
Okay, so what we have heard is that this plays a huge role on our health, right? Like everyone's hearing that, everyone's going, oh, like we are not here to just say, hey, let's do 8 weeks and lose 5 pounds. It's let's change your life for the better. Okay, that is why we're here. So let's talk about, like, now that we know and Kara has scared the crap out of us, right? How do we solve it? Right? Like now I'm like, oh my gosh, like how can I change my health? Because guess what? The steps are easy. And guess what? A lot of you are doing them right now because you're doing our challenge and our habits, because our habits are set up to help you change your insulin resistance into better insulin sensitivity. Okay. So number 1, after meal walk. Okay. That alone.
My favorite.
Right. That alone clears glucose from the bloodstream to lower blood sugar and help move food through the system quicker. Okay. So it doesn't give you the time to store it up. It like gets it through your system and it clears the blood sugar just for going for a 10-minute walk. Okay. So I know a lot of you have said, I struggle with that. How important it is to you to just, you know what? I'm going to do a 10-minute walk right around, like 10 minutes goes so fast. I'm always like, I didn't go anywhere. Okay. Even around my kitchen, as I walk around my like circle with my kids, it's a 10-minute walk. It doesn't have to be outside. It doesn't have to be a big deal. You don't have to bundle up. Walk up and down your stairs or around your basement. Okay. That's a simple thing.
Put on the TV and walk in place for 10 minutes. It doesn't have to be outside.
Absolutely. I didn't even think about that. That's a great idea. After every meal.
We all love TV after eating, right? So put it on and walk in place.
Yeah. 2.5 songs, 3 songs tops. It's like 10 minutes. Done. Okay. Yep. Kara, talk about drinking water.
Okay. Water. If you don't know, water is a thermogenic. It actually increases your metabolism. So we are aiming for 100 ounces in this group. That's pretty minimum. It used to be that old adage of getting 8 glasses a day. Now the thing is half of your body weight in ounces or 100 ounces, whichever is more. So if you're a lightweight and you're like, oh, I don't have to drink 100 ounces. Nope, minimum is 100 or more if you're overweight, more if you're exercising a lot, more if you're out in the desert heat, more if you're, just hot. So 100 ounces minimum is going to speed up your metabolism, but it's also going to keep you full, which is going to help you with your food choices. And if you just add 7 ounces before every meal, that will also start your digestive system before you ever start eating, and you'll eat less and your body will tell you to stop eating sooner.
Because you feel full, right? Like you're like, oh, I already kind of eaten. Exercise. Yep. moving your body a half hour every day. Okay. Regular exercise is one of the best ways to increase insulin sensitivity. It helps move sugar into the muscle for storage. So it replenishes that glycogen store, and it opens up the cell that there's more for that. It gives you a place for the glucose to go, right? Because if you have a bunch of glucose in your system, you don't have anywhere for it to go. But if you open up those cells because you've used that energy, now it's like, oh, I can send that energy there, and it's not going to send it to make fat. It promotes an immediate increase in insulin sensitivity. And guess how long it lasts? 2 to 48 hours for some people. Like working out a half hour can help you be more sensitive to insulin for 48 hours. That's huge, guys. And that's why I put those 5 workouts on there, and I hope some of you are trying them. Like, I know it's scary. Try one because they make a difference. A half hour a day. You don't have to be killing yourself. You just need to be moving, right? Kara, talk about supplements for me.
Okay, supplements. If you know Joey and I at all, you know we are supplement snobs, gurus, whatever you want to call it. But it's because I've tried doing life without them and I've tried doing life with them, and the results are in the pudding. So we just keep doing them. You just cannot get the same nutrients from our food and our soils that you used to be able to get. You just can't. We just have over farming. It's just not the same. And so supplements just fill in the gaps. They're just the missing puzzle pieces so that you can have a complete picture. And they just make it so that you don't have to be perfect in your life. Like, I could do probably intermittent fasting perfectly, and probably improve a lot of things, but I'm not going to, because I'm human and I like to eat. Like, I like to have food at parties, meals, whatever, you know what I mean? So what I like about supplements is that they're just the easy button. They just help to give you what you need without making you have to make your entire day about food prep and eating and slaving over the stove or whatever. So anyway, some of our favorite supplements to look for are things like chromium, alpha lipoic acid, chlorogenic acid. All 3 of those slow down the absorption of glucose into your cells. So it basically lowers the glycemic index of your food. Those are in our slim drink. If you're using those, that's why we like it, because there's 3 in 1. That's an easy button and it tastes delicious. So chug that down and you're good for 8 hours, right? Other things like adaptogenic herbs, cinnamon, mulberry extract, whole kidney. Those are also all really great at helping you control your blood sugars. And some of us just need a lot of help. I am not a diabetic. I'm not even pre-diabetic. My glucose numbers look amazing, but I'm insulin resistant. And that means I have too much insulin. It's not being used and it's starting to create problems. So those things are helping me to reverse that before I do have a full-blown diabetic storm. So anyway, look for some really great ones. If you want, any advice on that, feel free to message us. We'd love to talk to you more about it. We have our favorites. We've done a lot of research. We've looked around. We know a lot of easy buttons for you, but I would definitely consider adding in some supplementation. It's going to boost your results and magnify what you are doing. You might as well get the most out of your walks, the most out of your food, the most out of your meal prepping. Add in the supplements. It's going to magnify it.
Magnifying. That's the word I love, is just like magnifying what you're already doing. And just to like a little plug-in shout out to Kara, guys, she's lost 7 pounds this week just by focusing on her insulin resistant habits. 7 pounds. That's huge. A lot of that's probably inflammation, right? Because insulin is going to increase your inflammation in your body. And so she's attacking both of those things. She's making her more sensitive and she's reducing inflammation.
And I will just put in a quick plug. I'm going to talk about it more on Sunday night when I share more of my story, but I changed up my regimen last week. So not only did I increase some, things like water, I've been doing the weight training, I've been working on my sleep, I've been doing those things, but I changed up my supplement regimentation. And guess what it did? It magnified what I was already doing so that inflammation would come off. And I focused on adding in supplements that were specifically targeting insulin and inflammation.
Absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. So let's talk about processed foods. So processed foods became the easy button in the 80s, right? Especially in the 80s. I think it started coming a little before then. But processed foods, like, let's just say...
now they're the evil button?
Yes. Like cheese product. What is a cheese product? They can't even call it cheese because it doesn't have enough cheese in it. It's cheese product. And yes, that is Kraft Singles, is a
Yeah.
cheese product. Okay. When things have been processed so much that our body doesn't even recognize them, seed oils fall into this category, guys. Like when you're doing cotton, is it cotton? No, I can't remember. Like Crisco.
Mhm.
Crisco is
Yeah.
a leftover of a seed that, like, here's the garbage. But you know what? If we press it and grind it and turn it into something, we can turn it into Crisco. And that became like the cooking oil. And that stuff is killing us because our body's like, Chris, what is this? What is this lard coming in me? I don't know what to do with it.
Canola
It's not
oil.
food.
Yeah. No, canola oil, vegetable oil, Crisco, they're all the same. Leftover garbage.
Yes. So focus on your olive oils. Those are actually going to help inflammation in your brain. You're going to focus on, so olive oil, avocado oil, and coconut oil are your best options there. It's hard to get away from vegetable oils. It really is, because it's in a lot of our processed foods. But if we can start shopping the perimeter of the grocery store, buying more things fresh, prepping more vegetables, and I get it, it's hard. It's important to me. And so it's what I do. But I know for some of you, you're like, I can't cook every meal. But you can find ways to make it more simple. But the more you pull back on those processed foods, and the more we pull back on the processed foods for our kids, the more we're going to help them long term. Because, like, I'm not perfect. My kids eat a McDonald's here and there, but it's not like an everyday kind of thing, right? It's very seldom. So I'm just aware what I'm putting into my body and their bodies. Also, pulling back on the carbohydrates, right? So when you pull back and you're not having them at every single meal, and especially like doing the snacking in between, because when you snack, like, let's all face it, it's all trips, right? It's like quick carbohydrates for your snacks. Like, stop, that needs to just go. But when you bring down those carbohydrates, your glucose is not spiking, right? Get the correlation? So when that insulin is coming in, because the glucose is spiking, it's got to produce more and more. But if I'm giving my body less carbohydrates, especially at the front of like a weight loss journey, like, this is kind of how you like get it going, and then you can go back into more of a balance. But if I pull back on those, my glucose is not coming as high, so I'm not having to release the insulin. It just makes me more sensitive overall. And studies have shown that you can change it, even like your sensitivity, even within 24 hours of like some of the choices you're doing. So that's like amazing to be like, I can just make a few choices and I can do better. That's why, and this is something it just kind of clicked. When people start a weight loss journey and they're not seeing those fast results, it's because their insulin has to take some time to reverse. And then as that takes its time, and then you start to support that, then we see the magic. But too many people do the 8 weeks and they're like, I'm done. I didn't lose anything. I'm done. Well, that's right when your body is starting to go, oh my gosh, like, I start to understand I don't have to throw in so much insulin and have those issues. So stay in this. Like, this is the magic. I know the first week motivation is gone, right? It's hard. It's like, oh, the excitement. Now I have to like do the work. But guys, you're here. You're here. Stay here. Stay with us. You're going to learn a lot of things about your health. This is not about just losing a few pounds anymore, right? Like, who doesn't want to live an extra 20 years? Like, life is good. Let's make you feel better,
or
right?
if you're going to live an extra 20 years, then let's be healthy so we can
Yeah.
enjoy it, quality, right?
Yeah. Feel good to get
Two
out.
things I want to add real quick. Yeah. Two things I thought of, Jill, to add really quick. One, like she was saying, I've had insulin resistance since I was a baby, like 39 and a half years now. So me expecting it to reverse in 8 weeks, that's pretty ridiculous, right? Like, I'm going to see improvements. I'm going to make effort for sure, but it's going to be a journey. Okay. So that's, I love that perspective. And then I forgot to mention with water, and this goes great with food choices that Joey's talking about, stay away from the fake sugars. So it's not cheating by going, or how do I say this? It's not fixing anything to say, well, I'm not going to eat the real sugars. I'm going to go get the fake sugars because they're calorie free. No, 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 no. If you're going to choose, eat the real ones, because your body can process the real ones because they're a food. The other ones are a chemical made in the lab, and your body doesn't know what to do with it, just like the seed oils. And guess where it stores it? As cottage cheese in all of your muscles and fat, or in all of your fat, I should say. Okay. And then you get cartilage, or you get, what's the word I want? Cellulite. That's where it's coming from. It's storing it there. Okay. So if you don't know, sucralose is regular sugar plus chlorine. and it cleans your gut just like it does your toilet. It goes through and destroys all of your good bacteria. Quit the sucralose. Okay. And then all fake sugars, they turn off your leptin response, which means your body doesn't know how to tell you when you're done eating. It doesn't know how to tell you when you're full, and it doesn't shut off your insulin. That's what they're doing. So they may be calorie free, but they're actually telling your body, let the insulin go, keep letting it go, and you're just filling yourself full of insulin. So please let those fake sugars go. Get rid of them.
Yes. So those diet sodas are not a good choice at all. Like either the real sodas, but they're like even worse, even though they're diet. So, Kara, talk about your 4-4-4 rule, full 12, whatever. Your rule about about eating 12 hours and eating in between, and how that relates and how we can be successful.
Okay. Perfect. Okay. The 4-4-12 rule is what I heard it from my friend, Dr. Thomas Hemingway. But basically it's saying 4 meals between 4 hours of not eating between breakfast and lunch, 4 hours of not eating between lunch and dinner, and then 12 hours of not eating between dinner and the next breakfast. Okay. So that only adds up to 20 hours. That gives you 4 hours to eat food. So if you wanted each of those meals to be 2 hours long, you could. I know some people eat slower. I eat smaller meals at a time. And so dinner is long for me. I fill it pretty quick, but I'm not done and I haven't eaten my calories. I just have to kind of wait for it to move through. And so if you need to take more time, it's totally fine. You can. But the magic is in the length of the windows that you're not eating in. That's what your body is craving. That's what it wants. Because every time you put food in your mouth, your body has to release insulin. And so the longer you can have some breaks without putting any food in your mouth, the longer you're going without your body putting out insulin, which means you're becoming more insulin sensitive because it's not there. Okay. Anyway, and then the other thing is you can increase those windows if you want to. Those are just kind of the minimum guide to go by. I don't even eat breakfast. So I will fast from like 8 o'clock at night a lot of the times until like noon the next day sometimes, or 10 or 11. So I have lunch and then I wait 4 or 5 hours. I have dinner and then I might have a snack and then I'm done. Like I don't eat for that big fasting window. So anyway, that's just a really great way where you can reduce the amount of insulin that your body is putting out by increasing the length of time you're not eating. Don't skip calories. You need food, not saying starve, but just have windows where you're not snacking, you're not eating.
Yeah. So what I want you to hear here, especially from a trainer's point of view, I really fought this for a while, guys, because it wasn't what I learned, right? Like you need to be eating every 2 hours. You be doing all these things. The research has changed my mind. Like really, we need those longer windows. We don't have to be a breakfast person. I'm a breakfast person. I love breakfast. I'm done eating by 6:30. I'm eating by 8:30 or 9. Like it's just what works for me. I'm up really early. I work out. Like I'm starving by that time. But I want you to just like relook at your thinking and your mindset around food. Okay. A meal doesn't need to look, don't put it in this box. Okay. A meal can be like, I start a meal, I come back to the meal, because Kara, she doesn't like to eat one whole thing, but she wants to finish her vegetables a little bit later, like in an hour. Like she's like, oh, I can finish it now as food goes through. Maybe she does a 10-minute walk in between it and then she finishes her meal. That works for her. And so I don't want you to be like, I can't do that. It doesn't work with my schedule. Like all those things. Change your thinking. How could you be successful? How could you spread out your meals just a little bit more? Like I eat at 8, 1, and 6, and that works for me. And I just don't snack anymore. I don't need to. And when I do, I just feel like, why'd I snack? I wasn't hungry. It's mindless eating, right? So if I already know my windows and I'm like, I can eat, like I kind of start my breakfast because I'm cooking for everyone and I like eat that whole hour. It's great. So I want you just to really rethink what a meal looks like and how your eating looks like, and not being so like, if breakfast doesn't work with you, then it's fine. Just shift that window. You can eat later and start later. So I love those prospects, but I promise like these simple habits are going to be just simple. Like it's just going to improve. Like it's the little things, right? Sleep is another one, right? Anything you want to add about sleep? No? So sleep is another one that just really helps improve your insulin
Yeah, minimum
sensitivity.
7 hours. I used to even say minimum 6 because I knew. I think there's a delay. Sorry,
There.
but 6 isn't even cutting it. You need 7. 7 minimum. Get 7. If you get less than that, your body is literally producing too much cortisol throughout the day. It's keeping you in fight or flight. It's keeping you in a heightened state of stress. Sleep packing on weight as you sleep. If you have less than 7. So if weight is an issue for you, get 7 hours of sleep. It is impossible to control your weight if you're not getting 7 hours of sleep regularly.
Okay. So here's what I want you to hear. I don't want you to listen to this and get overwhelmed. Right? Where's my camera? Right there? Don't get overwhelmed. Because I feel like this is a big, heavy topic. And now everyone's like, oh, we're deflated, right? No, this is empowering. This empowers you to take charge. Pick a few of those things each day, each week. Improve your score by 1, right? This is about progress, not perfection. So don't beat yourself up if you dropped numbers last week. Not a huge deal. But you just focusing on 1 or 2 of those habits is better than you were last week. And it's making lifelong changes. So, like I said, you can change your insulin sensitivity within 1 day. So if you tried 1 day, maybe you've added a day onto the end of your life. Maybe you've, got away from some sort of disease you might get later. So think about that. You are making lifelong changes being here. And feel free to DM us, whatever. Let's start some conversations of what we can do to speed this process up and how can we support you, because you're here for a reason. And I don't want you to feel like, oh, that didn't work for me, because the help is here. The information is here. The motivation, all of it is here, but you have to ultimately do the work, right? So let us help you figure out ways to find easy buttons for you and do the work. So we just really appreciate you being on here. We're so excited that you're here in this challenge with us. So just keep going. I love it. I think that's it. We might have lost Kara. I'm not sure. But bye, if I can turn it off. I'm not sure where she went. So thanks, guys. Did you stop the recording?